Hello, my friends. Jacob is here once again, and so are you, and so are all of you. And I'm happy that you're here because, it just continues. You know, I got to tell you, for the people that have been watching and subscribed and also check that bell so that you're notified, even though you're not notified, those that are signed up on Twitter and Facebook and Telegram, maybe you'll be notified there. For those of you that just come back and know that I do more than one video a week, maybe like 3 or 4, sometimes 5 a week, sometimes 6, who knows? For those of you that check and then watch every video, this program is going to make you feel extraordinary. Because everything we've been talking about for, last couple of months, it just seems like it's one episode leads to another episode, leads to another episode, leads to another episode, leads to voila, here we are. Huge sarcophagus found underneath the Notre Dame Cathedral that burnt down. Sealed in lead. People are making a big deal out of it. They're worried. They're like, oh, it's a vampire or something. But they got no idea. You all have no idea how this is tied into everything. Everything that we've been talking about on the program. The cursed tablets that have been found. The Whore of Babylon. The trident. The soul of man. The 9-tailed fox that was released, all of it ties in to this magnificent discovery and also to what we just went through. Good Friday, supposedly, right? The day that Christ laid down his life, he was put to death. And then, of course, you have the resurrection, where he rises again. Notice I didn't say Easter, because that's based on pagan nonsense. But it's there for a reason. So even the people that have been following after Ishtar, Inanna, all of these female gods, Artemis, that are all based on the same mythology, you can know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Today's program, wow. If there was ever a time to thank God that you're seeking God, and you at least know, look, I'm not worthy of you, Lord, but help me to be better. Help me to be a better person. You know, for those of you that are doing that right now, this is good. For those of you that are not, who could care less, things are going to get really rough very shortly. You want to talk about goosebumps on the program? A lot of people get the goosebumps. I get the goosebumps. I got the goosebumps from this show. It was almost a little concerning to me about the things that are coming on the world. So we're going to get right into it. And I got to thank all of you because once again, what do? I show up, I get an email. Joe Sams sends me one passage from the Old Testament, one of the prophets. And it turns out, I think this prophecy has come true. And that doesn't spell good things for this beast system, if you know what I will. So, I hope you buckled up because this program, off the charts, people. Off the charts. You better share it around. Welcome back to the program. So here's the deal, right? So I was thinking of actually doing this as a live stream because now, I went out, I stepped out on a limb and without fear, and I just did it. I did a live stream and it did great. And they, of course, demonized it and shut it down for whatever reason. I think it's the thumbnails because it was really about Passover and everything else. If you haven't seen that show, check it out. I didn't want to do the show as a live stream. Whatever reason, maybe the algorithm's a little more tricky. I don't know. So we're going to do it this way, which is the way I like it. It takes a little more effort, takes a lot more work, but it's a cooler show. So a little while ago, I read about this sarcophagus that was found under the Notre Dame Cathedral. It was sealed in lead. It was at the very base of, like, they found this thing because they're in the midst of construction, because you know that it just burnt down a little while ago. I did programs about that and how it's connected to the crown of thorns, because the one thing that they actually recovered from it was the crown of thorns. That's right, believe it or not. Supposedly that place housed the literal crown of thorns that Jesus had, and they turned it into some kind of a this thing. So it was there, but when the Notre Dame Cathedral burnt down, which was just a couple of years ago, one of the things that they saved and they made a big deal of talking about was the crown of thorns, like as if it was a great thing. I said, of course the beast system would be focused on the crown of thorns. A crown is symbolic of an authority, a rule, right? We got the virus of the crown. We're given the crown of Christ to rule and reign with him, but of course there's a virus because people are sick today. They don't have faith today. People have given up on God today. This crown of thorns was thrust upon Jesus right before he went to the cross. Big deal. Crown of thorns. It's a big deal. Very symbolic, because if you've watched the show long enough, if you haven't, you should subscribe to my website, jacobisrael.com. I think it's in this corner. I don't know where it is, but you should subscribe there, because then we can stay connected and everything else. It's free. But I have plenty of essays about what the crown of thorns was. Paul was given a thorn in his flesh. Adam, when he was cast out of the garden, the ground only produced thorns. Jesus revealed what the crown of thorns, symbolic of an authority, a rule of thorns, was. You want to know what the thorn is? People didn't know what Paul's thorn is. Very simple. A sower goes out into the field, he sows seed, some of it falls among thorns. The thorns grow up, strangle the seed. And he says to his disciples, Jesus said, the thorns are the cares of the world and the deceitfulness of riches. We worry about everything that's going on in the world. Right? We worry about, but if we have enough money, we'll be okay. We put our faith in the system, and we're ruled by the system, and yet it's our suffering. And we got to worry, and we got to care, and that's the thorn. And that's what was thrust on Jesus right before he was put to death. He took upon himself the sins of the world, the cares of the world, the sins of the world, us, what we worry about. So the fact that the crown of thorns was saved from Notre Dame Cathedral, not a great thing. But of course the beast system would be after it, because that's what they want. They want that control. There's a little spooky tie-in to that animated movie from a while back called I Pet Goat 2, where that cosmic Jesus was coming out and everything was, changing. And you see this, it looked like Notre Dame Cathedral. It was burning, and it was, the spire falls, and it falls in such a way, it looks just like when the Notre Dame Cathedral fell. And at that moment in that video, you see the crown of thorns that cosmic Jesus was wearing disappear. So it's quite strange that the crown of thorns in Notre Dame Cathedral disappears at the same time. Now it's stored in the Louvre. You all of this because all of this is linked to something else. So if you're new to the channel, you should watch till the end of the show. I have to lay the groundwork to get to the big wahoo, because that's what it is. It's like, what the heck is going on? You're going to be so blown away when you see that Zechariah's prophecy may have 100% come true with what was just discovered underneath the Notre Dame Cathedral. This is crazy to me. And very encouraging to me. So let's get into what this was. Extraordinary! Ancient tombs and statues unearthed beneath Notre Dame Cathedral. Now I want to just tell you about when Notre Dame Cathedral, right before it burnt down, they were doing renovations, and what they did was they took all of the saints. They had these statues of saints. They sawed off their heads, and they were going to take the saints to be restored. So all the saints were beheaded. And I did a program, live show, years ago. I said, this is telling us what's going to happen in the future. It's not too great. I was worried. I was worried about it, especially when they retrieved that crown of thorns. A lot of this has to do with, of course, Good Friday that we just went through. Strange. Stranger still is that as I'm looking into the crown of thorns and everything else, I get at JacobIsrael71 on Twitters about the crown of thorns that just went down on AEW. I guess they wrapped, a thorn crown on Good Friday around one of the wrestlers. Not great taste, but significant because happening at the same time that I'm looking into the crown of thorns. Thorns, just so you know, represents the beast system saying, all right, you're a king, sure you are, here, let's give you a crown. And what they did was they pushed those thorns as hard as they could, and they dug the thorns deep into Jesus's head. Very symbolic, because the beast system has put this crown of thorns on all of us and have pushed those cares of this freaking world deep into our thinking, so much so that we're a mess most of the time. That's why we need the Lord to set us free, and the Lord is setting us free. Egypt and Babylon, it's coming to an end. I'm telling you, it's just going to get ugly before it does. A lot of weird things going on. I did a lot of stuff that was tied to all of April. Of course, I talked about Passover on April 15th and about the beast rising, about all these movies that are talking about the beast, Transformers, the Rise of the Beast. And of course, that movie Outer Range, which is pretty dark, was just released. And all of these movies having to do with the antichrist, if you will, being revealed in the world, coming out around this time. Very significant to me. Very significant to me because it's telling me a story. A story about how the carnality of man, the evil in man, the corruption in man is going to be dealt with. But it has to be revealed first. So here it's being revealed. The wickedness, the nine-tailed fox, the whore of Babylon, right? That wicked spirit that's in the world that we've been talking about, and how it's making its last stand.
Are we ready for a new world order?
things are so hard right now. That's why things are so spooky right now. That's why you're being pumped with nonstop fear. But we have nothing to fear. So long as we love others, we forgive others, and we're patient, and we have faith in more. Regardless of what people say, there is a God. And the God of Jacob, my God, the God that I pray to, you should pray to. Ask for the truth. It's the only freedom that you're going to find is by knowing God, because he's done with this place. He's done with how corrupt these people are. He's done with how just ungodly these people are. All of these people working together to try to prove that there is no God. This is the beast that's literally standing in the temple declaring himself to be God.
Do you believe in God?
No.
Okay, so you don't believe in God.
The word is problematic. There are two kinds of gods in the world. And people tend to mix them. There is one God, the mystery God, about which we know nothing. The chief characteristic of this God is that he is mysterious, and humans can't understand and can't say anything about this God.
Great YouTube channel, just put out a video. Big fan of this channel. Check this one out. About this guy Harari, Yuval Noah Harari, good friends with Russell Brand. I was going to talk about him and how he's saying, yeah, we got to get rid of these myths, these ideas. We got to understand that we're all going to be tracked and that we can't let a good crisis go to waste. That's what's happening. That's the moment we're in. This is the final chapter, if you will, of the story. And I've read the story, and there's reason for us to have hope, especially since you worry about all of this stuff. And we're talking about relics, right? We're talking about relics. We're talking about the crown of thorns. There's another relic, and it's the fragment of the cross. Okay, so you probably heard. Oh, this is so interesting. You probably heard about the battleship. You sank my battleship, the Moskva, that was hit by a rocket. You know what the rocket was called? It's a Neptune rocket. Neptune, right? The god of the sea. How long have we been talking about the god of the sea? Got the trident, right? How long have we been talking about that? 23rd letter of the Greek alphabet, the soul of man, right? This is the battle for the soul that's going on right now. This Russian ship sank. I think it was hit on the 14th or whatever, and on the 15th, I'm thinking, I don't know for a fact, 15th, I think it sank. Neptune missile strikes. It was one of, that country. Hey, you, Crane, the rocket, one of their rockets. But of course, on the 15th, you know what happened? Russian state TV, you know what they did? They declared World War III has started. You know what that state TV in, the country known as Russia, you know what they did? They declared on their TV station, they said that the third, war of the worlds has started. That's what they said on the 15th. Interesting, because they think, of course, that attack on that major, that was like their flagship. That was like their flagship battleship. That was like their and here's weird. Supposed to be carrying a piece of the cross. Strange, right? Strange. It's carrying a piece of the cross, which is a symbol of, Jesus said, he goes, you say that you're followers of me and everything, but you don't do what I say. He says, You don't know me unless you pick up your cross. So you have the system, and once again, I'm not picking sides. War is wrong. Hurting other people is wrong, okay? This is not me endorsing any of this nonsense, right? I know that God is in control, and I know that everything that's happening is ordained by God, and that God is course correcting, because we've become so corrupt as a people. So corrupt. So corrupt that on Twitter, I'm putting stuff out about how, everybody's saying he's risen, and nobody even knows what that means. And nobody's showing the love of God. That guy Harari, he's all about, he says, there's going to be surveillance and it's going to be under your skin. It's going to be digital ID. This is what's going to happen. We're all going to be controlled and it's going to be fine. That's what he's saying. But it's interesting because, the very first digital ID was launched in guess what country? Hey, you! It's Ukraine! Yeah, it's called Dia City. It's very strange. It also legalizes all of crypto. So this is a big deal because it got a lot of crypto donations for all of this. So it's legalized it. Now it's a form of ID. So Dia City is their new, this is like the new digital ID. This is going to make things so easy. I was telling the Dan downstairs earlier, I was saying, so we were having problems. We were trying to open up an app and we had to go through one of our many passwords and figure it out. And I think it's this, or I think it's that, or I think it's this. We spent like an hour trying to figure it out. I said, that's the reason. Because everybody's going to be like, you just need your digital ID. You'll be fine. It'll be so much easier. You don't have to remember passwords anymore. It's almost like it's done on purpose. But that all being said, guess what the symbol is for Dia City? A trident. I got to tell you, there was a lot of stuff that went down. Like a lot of I had prompts. Like a lot of weird little things would pop up, or little videos or things that I would just stumble across that would remind me of something else that I was looking into. This whole show came about, sometimes it was inspired by a lot. Can't wait to share the most important part. I don't do this stuff on purpose where I save the best for last, but it's important that you stick around and you watch, because the fact that a Neptune rocket, Neptune, of course, is the god of the sea. We've talked about this. We got the sea beast, right? We got people on Twitter reminding me of Doctor Who, the sea devils that are released. Is the Kraken going to do something? We got the beasts everywhere from the sea, all over. All of these videos that I've shared, one after the other, they all led up to this. So incredibly unexpected. Neptune, by the way, Neptune, the planet, doing some weird things. April 12th, I believe it was, there was a conjunction with Jupiter. I saw that as pretty interesting. Jupiter is, just so you know, symbolic of Christ, has stripes, it's the biggest planet. Because of Jupiter's mass, it protects us from a lot of space rocks and space junk that's smashing. Because of its mass, it absorbs a lot. So, that passage by his stripes we are healed, which has to do with, of course, the 40 less 1 lashes that Jesus got with a cat of 9 tails, 9-tailed fox, beating Jesus. Very symbolic, all of this. So incredible. Well, I saw it as a picture of, the god of the sea, Neptune, the beast system, coming head to head with the Christ in us. That this is the day, this is the battle that takes place in heaven where, the devil's cast into the earth, and this is the final moment. And And what's weird about Neptune is a lot of people are noticing that it has strange and unexpected things happening. Like it's losing its power, if you will. It's getting colder. It's lost so much of its warmth. Get it? The hearts of the world grow cold. Neptune being the god of the sea. The sea in Scripture and Revelation we know is humanity and carnality in the beast system. Neptune is getting colder and colder and colder, literally. It's on a 40-year cycle. 40 is symbolic of that 40 years in the wilderness, right? Jesus had almost 40 lashes. There's 40 weeks to a pregnancy. And it gets painful towards the end. And we're in those last birth pangs. But Neptune, scientists are puzzled because they don't understand it. It's very strange, especially since a Neptune rocket sunk the battleship carrying possibly a fragment of the cross. From the Oscars, where you saw the Prince of Bel-Air, Bel, the system coming against Christ, the rock of Christ, giving out the award for the Summer of the Soul on those who are on the quest for love. You see it played out. Neptune growing colder and colder. The world growing colder and colder. It's quite interesting. But nowhere near as interesting as what they found. A Pandora's box, if you will. Strange. This is really extraordinary. Extraordinary find. Extraordinary find, that's what they're calling it. This is going to give all of you the chills, I'm telling you. Okay, so ancient tombs and statues are unearthed beneath the Notre Dame Cathedral. Notre Dame Cathedral, right? The temple that they built for the system, and they call it God. But really, we know that this system isn't godly. It's the system that put Jesus to death to begin with. Archaeological dig finds body-shaped, lead-sealed sarcophagus buried at the heart, the pedestal, the foundation of the fire-ravaged monument known as the Notre Dame Cathedral, which burnt away, which burnt down. So they had this dig, and they supposedly Macron says, "Oh, it will be rebuilt. It will be rebuilt in a little while, and we will have croissants, and we will have French fries." I don't know if that's what the French eat, but sounds good to me. So they're in the process of doing the renovations, and of course, something collapsed when they were going down into like the ducts and the heating and the vents and this. And what do they find? They found a sarcophagus that was shaped in a body, and it was lead. So now people everywhere are freaking out about this thing. They're pleading, like literally people are pleading, don't open it. They're planning on opening it, these meatheads, right? Just like they opened that spooky sarcophagus back in the day with the black goo. And we saw how that turned out, right? People are really losing their marbles over this thing. But the biggest find, they think, was a stone-carved head and beheaded Jesus. That's what they say it is. Yeah. The most extraordinary pieces, an intact sculpture of the head. Remember I've been talking on the show, foxes have holes. Talk about the nine-tailed fox, the fox spirit. Birds have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. Well, they got the head of Jesus. Right there on the side of this sarcophagus. Now, I on Twitter put out, let's see how this tweet ages. If they do open it, they're going to find the body of a woman. I'm guessing, right? I'm speculating. By the way, I'm not making predictions here. I don't make predictions here. I have an idea of how I think things will go. I don't know if they're going to go that way. Nobody whispered in my ear and said, Jacob, this is what's going to happen. New York's going to get flooded. It just got flooded. I had a weird feeling. Jacob, there's going to be a rainbow at the Ark, Noah's Ark. And it was a literal rainbow. No one told me that. I just figured. All of these things, I'm just looking at stuff. Jesus said, he goes, you can see the signs. You can look at the weather. You know when the weather's going to be nice. But you can't look at the world and say what's going to happen next. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, this isn't good news for the wicked. You're going to see why. Oh, man. I love that I saved the best for last. We got this lead-sealed, lead sarcophagus at the base of this temple that they built that has been burnt down and now is being rebuilt. Very strange. Okay. I was going to talk about this for a while, but didn't really have that last piece of the puzzle. And then Joe Sams emails me. And he emails me Zechariah chapter 5. And he had no idea. I mean, the little thing that he shared, which was pretty cool, because there's mention of a lead sealed ephah or a basket, a lead sealed basket. So it kind of sounds similar, but you got to do a little digging to find out how similar it really is. Now, if you don't know who Zechariah is, he's one of the, I guess you could say one of the minor prophets. And he's being given a vision of what's to come. In Zechariah 5, I don't know if you've studied scripture or anything else. You don't really need to. But there's a lot of, it starts off 1, 2, 3, 4. Every chapter builds. Chapter 4 talks about the gold lampstand and, of course, the olive trees. And he's talking about the witnesses of God. So there's kind of a time frame. So the witnesses of God kind of appear. And then this is why I was sharing what I was sharing on Twitter today. So this is chapter 4. This is the word of the Lord to Zerubbabel. Not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, says the Lord Almighty. Right? It's not about us. It's never been about me. What can I do? What can I do? I can't do nothing. It's not about me. I can't do nothing to change things, but by the Spirit of God. All I can do is not my will, Lord, but yours be done, and just kind of sit back and thank God that I want to serve God. And hopefully I'm doing the best that I can. What are you, mighty mountain, before Zerubbabel? You will become level as the ground. Then he will bring you out. Then he will bring out the capstone to shouts of God bless it, God bless it. By the way, the capstone, of course, is the head of Christ. Christ. We're supposed to be the body of Christ. We're given the name of Christ. We're supposed to take on the mind of Christ. That's the head of Christ. That's the capstone. It's rested his head on a stone. The capstone. It's Christ. By the way, the Stone of Destiny, I got to finish that show. I'm going to go into New York and I'm going to find that place. I can't wait to share that show. So Zechariah asks, I asked the angel, what are the two olive trees and on the right and the left of the lampstand? And again, I asked him, what are the two olive branches beside the gold pipes? He says, you don't know who these are? No, my Lord, I said. So he said, these are the two anointed to serve the Lord, the witnesses of God. This is us. So here we are. He's shown that the witnesses of God are going to stand up. Then he's shown this in chapter 5. Then Zechariah is shown this in chapter 5. It's called the flying scroll. I looked again, and there before me was a flying scroll. Right? It's kind of like it's been written in the stars, if you will. He asked me, what do you see? And I answered, a flying scroll, 20 cubits long and 10 cubits wide. And he said to me, what have we been talking about on the show? About God is going to curse the wicked, that the curse is going out, right? The cursed stones we just found that were revealed, the cursed tablets on Mount Ebal. Talked about God's curse going out, right? We talked about this. That's why this is strange to me. You'll see. I see a flying scroll, he said. And he said to me, this is the curse that is going out over the whole land. For according to what it says on one side, listen to this, every thief will be banished. And according to what it says on the other side, everyone who swears falsely will be banished. In other words, people that are lying, people that are stealing, the beast system, they're going to be banished. This is the day. There's a curse that has gone out into the world, and it is going to get rid of the liars and those who swear falsely and those who steal. The Lord Almighty declares, I will send it out, and it will enter the house of the thief and the house of anyone who swears falsely by my name. People that say, God told me this, God told me that. The beast system. Notre Dame Cathedral, right? Like as if that's where you're going to find God. Let me tell you where you find God. Just close your eyes and ask. You got God right with you. There's nowhere God is not. You don't need to go to no fancy building. Listen to them lie to you. It will remain in that house and destroy it completely, both the timbers and the stones. God's saying, I'm going to destroy the system. That house that you're going to see. Then the angel who was speaking to me said, look up, see what's happening. And I asked, what is it? So here Zechariah is like, well, he's having a dream. And he records the dream. Look up, what do you see? And what he saw was, it is an ephah. This translation calls it a basket. But it's a big basket. Most scholarly insight says it should be called a casket. It should be called a sarcophagus. It's a tomb. Because the tomb is flying between heaven and earth. It's the grave. He replied, it is, we'll call it a casket. It's a casket, a sarcophagus. And he added, this casket that you see is the iniquity of the people. The iniquity of the people throughout the land. So God's showing Zechariah, here are going to be the witnesses. They're going to come out. They're going to start spreading the word of God. And he goes, now look at this. And you see this right over here? That's the iniquity of the people. That's how corrupt this world has become. This is the iniquity of the people throughout the land. Then the cover of lead was raised. It was covered and sealed in lead. A casket, a sarcophagus, covered and sealed in lead. That's why Joe Sam sent that to me. Because it's interesting. A basket sealed with lead? Joe, you got no idea, dude. You got no idea how much more interesting this gets. Then the cover of lead was raised, and there in the basket sat, guess what? A woman. A nine-tailed fox. A whore of Babylon. Do you see? How long have we been talking about the corrupt carnal soul of mankind? The beast system. How long have we been talking about it? Of course, what's in this lead-sealed basket is a woman. The whore of Babylon that sits on the many waters that the dragon is going to turn against. The cover of the lead was raised, and there in the basket sat a woman. Because once again, we're not talking about a literal basket. We're talking about something that they called an ephah. It was a big big tomb, a sarcophagus, covered in lead, sealed in lead. It was opened in Zechariah's vision, and he saw a woman sitting in it, and he was told by the angels that it was the iniquity of the people, like Pandora's box being opened up. The box. Someone even on Twitter just shared all of these ancient gods carrying their little handbags. So Zechariah, this prophet, sees this sarcophagus sealed in lead, and then he looks up again and he sees duality. He sees two women with the wind in their wings. They had wings of a stork. Now this is why this is strange, because I read stork and I thought immediately of a crane. Remember, I've been joking on the show? It's like, hey, you, crane. It's a bird. The reason why this is interesting is that I had forgotten all about the stork connection with, the crane connection. But somebody shared on Twitter a picture of like a road runner grabbing a golf ball and slapping it into the ground. He thinks it's an egg. He's trying to open the egg, but it looks funny. It looks like he's having a good time with golf balls. Take a look. Storks and cranes, very similar birds, not exactly the same bird. They share, a lineage, but they lifted up the casket, the basket, the sarcophagus between heaven and earth. Where are they taking the basket? I asked the Lord. This is Zechariah speaking. And the angel replied, to the country of Babylon, Babylon, to build a temple for it, a house for it, a place of worship for it. When the house is ready, when the temple is ready, the basket, the casket, the sarcophagus will be set there in its place, at the very base, the pedestal of it. Because that place in Babylonia is called Shinar. Just so you know. Let me pull this up. This is crazy. This is crazy. Shinar, which is also where the Tower of Babel. We just did programs about how in Russia they literally burnt down the Tower of Babel. This is also so interesting. So the sarcophagus is taken to a place to be buried. And then he said to me to build a temple for her, for the sarcophagus, for the woman, the wickedness of all the iniquity that is in this world, pictured as a woman sealed up in a sarcophagus sealed in lead, buried at the midst of a grand temple that the world would know, like the Notre Dame Cathedral. And it just so happens the sarcophagus sealed in lead happens to be at the pedestal, at the very heart, at the very base, and the foundation. So literally it was placed there and everything was built upon it, just as written in Zechariah chapter 5. Very strange, but it gets stranger. To build a temple for her in the land of Shinar. And when it is prepared, she'll be set there on her own pedestal. Shinar means place where two rivers are. Country of two rivers. It's the ancient name of Babylon or Chaldea, Babylonia, Chaldea, the Chaldeans. Two rivers. So strange. You know why? So they said basically there's a casket, there's a sarcophagus sealed in lead, there's a woman in it. It represents all of the iniquity of man. It's going to be taken and it's going to be buried deep, deep beneath something. There's going to be a temple, a house of God that is going to be built upon it. Whew. Between two rivers. Just so happens that the Notre Dame Cathedral is between two rivers. Literally, that's what it literally means. Its location on an island between two branches of the Seine, which sets it apart from the city. Although it's in the midst of the city, it breaks the flow of the river, and in doing so creates two rivers. Strange. A lead-sealed sarcophagus. Very strange. They find included several tombs of these ancient tombs. The body-shaped lead sarcophagus buried at the heart, the pedestal of the fire-ravaged monument known as the Notre Dame Cathedral. Very strange. Now archaeologists are going to open it. So I think, oh my goodness, it's a picture of all the wickedness in the world being released. Just like that stone that opened up, the nine-tailed fox, the woman, the whore of Babylon, all of this. Everything is pointing to a moment where things are going to get so wicked. Pandora's box opening up. So I'm coming out of the gym this morning and I think to myself, there's got to be Pandora's got to be in the news, right? And of course it is. Like literally today, there's a huge lawsuit against Pandora, the streaming service, by comedians, 6 comedians, over the fact of licensing. They're suing over the spoken word. The word being spoken. They're suing Pandora because Pandora has been profiting off of the spoken word, the word of God. See the symbolism here? For many years. Their corruption has been revealed and now they're going to be sued. Also, the jeweler company known as Pandora in the news, cutting off ties with the leading industry in jewelry over Russia. Speaking of Russia, Russian bankers they shuffled all their wealth and all that stuff back in 2014 and because of the sanctions. And guess what? It's called the Pandora Papers, which is revealing a lot of corruption. The Pandora corruption is being opened up. They're going to open up the lead-sealed sarcophagus containing the woman who's connected to the whore of Babylon, who is the wickedness of the people, the Zechariah 5 prophecy. All of this stuff happening now. Interesting to me. Should be interesting to you, and it gives me a lot of hope, people. I'm very excited because I know that the coming days, they may be stressful, they may be really stressful, but holy macaroni, if God is not in control of this all, don't be one of those people that says there's no such thing as God. How does this happen? How does this happen? How does this stuff come to me? Out of the blue, total meatball, right? Just minding my own business. And then I get one thing after another thing and I look into it. A lead-sealed casket sarcophagus at the base of a huge temple that they didn't even know was there. Revealed. And now they're going to open it. Wickedness is coming on the land, people. So get your heart right. You know, love, forgive. Just know that God's in control and that you don't got to worry about all this stuff. You don't got to worry. I don't worry. I don't worry. But I have been warning people that right now is a time of great, we'll say, like where we wrestle not flesh and blood. You don't got to worry about literally fighting somebody, but the fight's in here and the fight's in here. My whole Easter, I was ruined. You think I'm perfect? Dan and I got to do a big fight. You know, I'm a blended family. We got a lot of things going on. And we didn't even have an Easter. We got to do it. We all made up, you know, thank God, because forgiveness is key. But man, we'll talk about how negative thoughts in here, negative thoughts in the Dan, negative thoughts, they produce pain, suffering. And if you don't cast those thoughts out, and if you don't think better, and you don't get selfish and think, oh, I deserve this or I deserve that, you won't be tricked by the devil, because the devil right now is at work within us all. The beast, the dragon, is in the earth and he's angry, right? He's cast into the earth. You don't think you're going to have troubles? You don't think you're going to have trials? You are. You don't think I do? I do. But you know what I do? I pray, and I share, and I ask for forgiveness, and I do better. That's all we can do. We're not perfect. But if we're on our guard and we're paying attention, you know, we encourage ourselves in the Lord, you know, the wiles of the devil, you'll be able to resist the devil. The devil will flee. Trust in God, people. Pray, be kind-hearted, forgive, love. Don't look at other people as the enemy, all right? Because the only enemy you got to worry about and concern yourself with, you can't literally see. That's the problem today. But God's going to handle it. He's going to handle it. Even if they open this sarcophagus, even if they open Pandora's box, and even if a bunch of nonsense comes out onto the world today, which it already has, I'm not that concerned. I'm very excited, and I think you should be too. So, do better. That's what I say to myself. I'm going to do better. You're going to do better. We're all going to do better. None of us are perfect, right? And that's Christ died so that we could live once again while we were yet sinners, right? While we were ignorant fools. And now the day has come where we can be encouraged in the Lord, where we remind ourselves that no weapon formed against us is going to prosper. Things are going to be okay. Things are going to be better than okay. Even though the world and the system that we know is going bye-bye, right? They call it the Great Reset, but God's got other plans. God's got other plans, so pay attention. I love each and every one of you. Please do subscribe. Tell your friends. Share the channel around. Leave a comment. Do these things. Get yourself a copy of The Calling. Yeah, it helps, and it's an amazing novel. You know what? I'll just open up to something. Let's see. Here we go. I'm going to read one of the poems. Every chapter starts with a poem. Is there anything we can imagine that can't come to pass? Is there anyone too far gone that love cannot bring back? Is there any height we cannot climb, any depth we cannot descend? Can we not live a full life or choose to put it to an end? Whatever therefore we think, we find and become. Whatever we believe can either defeat us or help us to overcome. So remember, my friends, the power of life and death is in your mind and in your tongue. Think better thoughts. Be better, do better, love others, give a hug to those around you, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Oh, check out the trailer to my novel if you're interested. Bye-bye.
September 10th. Mars hangs closer to the Earth than it has in 6,000 years. Like the light that led men from the east to a child in a manger, it could well be a sign of good things to come. Thomas James shall be his name. The world will change because of him. In the small town of Bethel, in a time not unlike our own, a child with a great purpose is born. Years later, alienated by his peers and abused, Thomas suffers a devastating loss. When it appears he has nothing left to live for in the world, this is when his true calling begins. While trying to escape the sinister powers that be, a terrifying vision haunts him. Miraculous events seem to follow the peculiar young man as he struggles to come to terms with what he was born to do. The stage is set. The time is at hand. The truth will rise and a revolution will begin. The startling revelation of who Thomas James is, truly, will change the lives of those around him and set off a chain of events long ago foretold. There is more to this novel than one might think. Inside these pages hides a treasure just waiting to be discovered. So if you've ever wondered if there's more to life, or why it is we suffer, then this story will not only captivate you, it may just open your eyes to a truth that could set you free. Find out what is in us all that makes us heed the calling